So, it's been a little while since the last video. I've been moving house over the last week and for some reason I always seem to forget how brutally awful that experience is. I've done it 13 times by now, you'd think I'd get used to it. So let me catch you up to how King's Country has developed. The first thing I want to show is the new warrior enemy types. As I mentioned in the last video, these were the last of the enemy types that I needed to pull together. These are the enemies that will focus on player units as opposed to trees or wildlife. The Dreng is the lowest level of warrior enemy and will begin to spawn into the game at about round 3. He has a shield and a buckler and wears chainmail. He packs a punch and is particularly effective against leshies. Next is the Berserker. This is basically a barbarian with a two-handed sword who runs at a quick pace into combat. He doesn't have too much health, but has a deadly sword swing and begins to appear at round 5. Then there is the Knight. He has full plate armor and moves slowly but surely into the fray. He has very high health and damage and is introduced at round 7. I'm not completely happy with these models, but the animations are working well in terms of timing for combat, so it's good to have them realised in the game. This completes the enemy types so far. I will eventually add some boss enemies, so some one-off hero units that will have special abilities and weaknesses, but for now the enemies are complete. I have added the Leshy player unit. This is essentially a pale giant with large health and damage, but slow movement. He is capable of launching woodcutters and hunters into the air, but struggles against log cutters and warrior units. I have chosen to make the warrior units impervious to being launched to help balance the game, and to allow the Leshies to actually die. Otherwise 3 Leshies could permit the player to complete the game without any other units. On that note, I have implemented the population mechanic. The player starts with 10 maximum units, but can increase the amount available by purchasing an upgrade. I might make the maximum dependent on the number of trees that are in the forest to encourage expansion, but for now the player can purchase 5 extra units at a time at an exponentially increasing price. Based off several comments both from YouTube and other playtesters, I have added a system for tree placement that encourages the player not to clump trees together, but rather to spread them out. The thinking behind this is to add some strategy to the placement of trees, and it fits with the actual mechanics of real-world trees. If they're too close together they get less sunlight and are less efficient. The mechanic does add some interesting strategic elements to the game, but encourages the player to place trees in a potentially less aesthetically pleasing way. Instead of a thick forest of pines, it's more like a sparse, rocky Irish island.
I just don't like you no more.
This is, however, contradicted by the new rune system. The rune system was implemented in the early prototype, and what it does is boosts the Magen output of the trees within its radius, as well as heal units that are inside. Basically, instead of 1 Magen being produced every cycle, 5 Magen is produced. There is an upgrade for the rune that increases this to 8 every cycle, as well as increasing the heal rate for player units. The price for this rune increases for every rune that is already present in the level. The next tool that I have developed is the Fire Beacon. This ability allows the player to draw in all the enemies on the map to a location and destroy them. It manifests itself as a fairy, seductively dancing on a toadstool, that will draw in the enemies, and when they are within its radius, and a timer runs out, it will explode, killing all enemies save the warrior enemy types, who will merely take damage and continue their objectives. I have also begun to integrate the upgrades. We have Borka Skin, which increases the health of all current and future units by 30%, Yarnefi, which increases damage dealt by player units by 30%, and Flugerforter, which increases player unit speed by 30%. During the downtime between waves of enemies, I have created a mechanic that will randomly spawn in pickups for the player. Currently there is a Magen pickup that will give the player an amount of Magen between 200 and 400 if it's collected by a unit. This is especially helpful in the early game and can give the player an edge for recruiting more units, at the cost of spreading out their army. There is also a health pickup that will heal player units who are nearby when they enter its radius. So that's pretty much it. Other than some slight tweaking to the wave system and working on some dynamic music stuff, that about covers it. Keep following for next week's video as I will be releasing King's Country version 0.2 on itch.io. This will be a short demo, 40 minutes to about an hour of gameplay, with the features I have now and a few extras added in. If you want to be an official playtester, head to my website billygreengames.com, go to the contact page and send me an email. I'll send you a playtesting form and put your name in the credits. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. The game is picking up momentum and I can't wait to show you what I have planned for the next weeks. Peace, love, and Unity 3D.